Welcome everyone to the Saint Louis Blitz 2025. We have Grandmaster Domaraju Gukesh, the world champion, on our screens. He's taking on the very strong American Grandmaster Leinier Dominguez Perez. Leinier is a five-time Cuban national champion, but now represents America. He's also the former World Blitz champion in 2008. Let's see how this game pans out with Gukesh. A handshake and off we go. Gukesh opens the game here with c4, c5, knight to f3, knight f6. The knight comes out to c3 and we have the four knights in the English. A fianchetto, strike in the center. Gukesh also strikes in the center with d4. We have e6 played and suddenly the game moves into some kind of a semi-tarash with knight takes d5 taken here. Well, if e takes d5, then this would have been a pure Tarash defense. But knight d5, he goes bishop to g2. Dominguez takes in the center. And now knight takes on d4 is a fine move here. There's also a possibility maybe to take on d5 that Gukesh is considering. After queen d5, you get the bishop and queen in one line, but there isn't much happening there. So perhaps knight d4 is the best move, but Gukesh thinking here, which is a bit surprising for me. By the way, the time control is 5 minutes plus 2 seconds increment. Look at Gukesh's focus there. He's completely zoned in. He's thinking about what he should play. He takes knight takes d4. Knight takes on c3, pawn takes, knight takes on d4. This is all well-known theory. You can take with the pawn on d4, but then bishop b4 check is pretty strong. And that's a problem, you know, like here bishop d2, then queen takes d4. So that's the reason why Gukesh takes with the queen. Again, queen takes, and you go bishop d6. And Dominguez is in his preparation. He plays bishop d6 with 5 minutes 3 seconds. While Gukesh is 1 minute down on the clock. But let's take stock of the position. White has a very strong bishop here and also central majority, goes bishop d2. So clearly this position is slightly more pleasant for white. But look at Dominguez, he's quick. He's going to go b6, bishop b7 and trade off these bishops. That's his plan. Could also go castles and rook c1, rook b1. These are the possible moves. There's a4, a5 that can be played here. But Gukesh thinking about what he should be doing here. Sometimes these simple positions take a lot of your time because you are a bit confused which move to play first. Castles, he goes a4. And I think he's preparing against the move b6 with perhaps a quick a5. That's what he would like to do perhaps. Dominguez also has some decisions to make. Should he go b6? Should he go bishop d7? Should he play king e7? Where the king is also pretty well placed on the e7 square. So he begins to think here and plays pawn to b6. He's okay with Gukesh pushing his pawn to a5. He realizes that maybe after b takes a5, the rook would open up, but Gukesh goes e4. He doesn't even try pushing a5. He plays pawn to e4. He wants to push e5 here in the position. So e4 played. And maybe for Dominguez, the best idea is to push e5. He castles here. And Gukesh also can castle. He goes king e2. A slightly risky move because the king could become potentially weak here. Think about it. Bishop a6 check. King e3 and e5. With the plan that if d5, there's bishop c5 check. So the king could be bit unsafe here. Dominguez taking his time, and I think that's a good idea because this is kind of a key moment. Look at this. Check, king e3, e5, And now you have to be careful. If you play d5, that's trouble time. So he does play e5 here. Bishop a6, king e3, e5 played. And that's what I was thinking. If you play d5, there's check and it's big trouble here. So Gukesh rightly plays his bishop to c3, defending the pawn on d4. And maybe wondering what should black do here. Look, d takes e5, I have check. So actually, can I break in the center with f5? That could be one crazy move here that Dominguez has. The other crazy idea which he has is to play rook c8 to attack this bishop. There's also rook b d8 to put pressure in the center. Gukesh needs to be ready here. Rook c8 played, attacking the bishop. He quickly brings his rook to defend the bishop here. And now it's going to be f5 maybe on cards. You know, f5 looks like a strong move because the king is in the center. But there's also another very, very interesting move here, which is to take on c3. Take, pawn takes. Now you're attacking both. So king takes. You want to give a check and win here, but it's not so simple. f6, maybe there is f4. But look at this move, rook d8. And now you realize that there is a discovered check here that could come potentially. So looking at these variations, Dominguez is kind of slowed down. He's now down to 1 minute 40 seconds. Look at his time. While Gukesh is at 2 minutes 50 seconds. So Dominguez taking a lot of time here, and he takes on c3. Bishop, rook takes, pawn takes, king takes, and rook d8. Fantastic chess played here by Dominguez. Now the threat is bishop b4, check, and you lose the bishop, lose the rook. The other idea is to play. I don't know. Maybe he has to move his king away. That's very important for Gukesh. Because all other squares are taken away by this bishop. So clearly he has to go back to e3. There is also the move rook bc1. But look at this finish. Bishop f4, checkmate. King e3 played. Wow. Gukesh finding the best move there. And now bishop e5. Attacking these rooks. Rook c1. Dominguez is now thinking about a check. He takes on c3, rook c3, and plays rook to c8. He's offering a trade of rooks. Gukesh, should he accept it? I think if he takes, this should be equal. Because, okay, white has an active king, but the king cannot get in easily while black's king is coming in. So, Gukesh prefers to keep his rook on the board. He goes rook a3, and now rook to c5, stopping a5 move. Activating his rook. Maybe let's go king d4, but there's rook c4 check. Not an easy position for Gukesh, who's always playing for win. You know, it's kind of even position. Should be drawn here. Gukesh goes bishop to f3. I mean, one of Gukesh's dream scenarios is to go bishop d1, b3, and d5. King comes to f8 for Dominguez. 1 minute 19 seconds for Leinier. 1 minute 30 seconds for Gukesh. He goes bishop d1. And now king comes up to e7. Expanding on the king side with f4. f6 played by Dominguez. Just kind of limiting these pawns. Should we go g4, h4? King d2 first. The bishop comes back to b7. Rook e3, defending this pawn. And now the bishop defends this pawn, so bishop c6. Well, it does feel like Dominguez is the one who's putting pressure here, because the a4 pawn is weak. Rook a5 could be an idea here. And Gukesh thinking here, goes bishop c2. Pawn comes up to h6. And now Gukesh also going below Dominguez's time. He goes rook a3. He defends the pawn on a3, a4. Now the bishop defends here, king d6, rook check. King goes to c7, he goes rook d4. I don't know what's the winning plan for Gukesh. He's just making his moves. Yeah, you know, he's just playing moves, one move after another, hoping that Dominguez goes wrong somewhere. It's not an easy position to go wrong as well. But I guess the plan could be potentially h4, g4, king side expansion. Rook a5 played. And Gukesh brings his king in. Rook checks again. The king this time goes to b2. Maybe there's b5. Goes rook a5 again. King to b3 played. Defending now rook c5. Now the king defends here, so he goes back. Will it be a repetition here? I think Gukesh can repeat, but no, he doesn't. He goes bishop b3. Rook comes up to c5. King side expansion with h4, rook a5. King comes up to c3. A check here. He goes back into the center of the board. Dominguez moving from c5 to a5, and now rook to c4, pinning the bishop here. King comes up to d6, rook d4 check, king e7 played. Where's the progress, guys? Where's the progress? King e3. The rook comes to c5, threatening a check here. King d3. Should we give a check here? Play b5, rook a5 played. Rook to c4, attacking the bishop. I believe there's king d6. Yes, he plays king to d4. Okay, okay. Bishop goes back to d7. He goes bishop c2. Oof. Such a long maneuvering struggle here. I mean, one has to give it up for Gukesh's willpower to win. Oh, he now wants to trade rooks. Suddenly rook takes, pawn takes. The structure has changed. King c3. I don't know if Gukesh should be happy here, because black now has a passer on c5. Gukesh goes a5, pushing the pawn. Bishop goes back to f7. He brings his bishop up. Bishop e6. Oof. Pawn endgame could have been lost there, so he avoids the trade of bishops. Bishop comes into e2. And he goes bishop f3. Bishop d3 played. And now Gukesh comes up. King e8. Bishop e8 stopping king b5. e5 played. Takes. King e5. He takes the pawn. g5 played here by Dominguez. He's super confidently playing here, Gukesh. It's still a draw. Dominguez also defending brilliantly. And now if bishop takes, bishop could be a blunder. So bishop g6. King coming in. Has to give a check. Bishop e8 again. But he goes king here. A blunder. King b7. He takes the pawn. Black takes the pawn. Whose pawn is faster? a6. g4 played. But king moves away. And Gukesh is going to make a queen. A check. Bishop blocks it. A7, A8, queen is coming in. He takes, king moves away. And G-pawn can only reach the 7th rank, and that is a win for Gukesh. What a play by Gukesh. Absolutely stunning game here. He was equal, maybe slightly worse, but he just didn't give up. He was like, I want to play on. And then finally at the end, Dominguez blunders and Gukesh gets his win there. A very important win for him as he puts back his pieces after the win.